Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dragon Family. This is Story Time with Falak, and today we are going to be reading about Abol Tabol by Sukumar Ray. In my previous video, I've given the introduction about Abol Tabol, who wrote it, who described it, who translated it, everything introduction that was. And today we are going to discuss the poems. So without any further ado, let's begin. So we are going to start with the King of Bombardia. Now let us first read the poem. In the land of Bombardia, the customs are peculiar. The king, for instance, advocates gilded frames for chocolates, while the queen, who goes to bed with pillows strapped round her head, insists her brothers specialize in sticking nails in custard pies. On moonlit night, the Bombardian, his eyes all painted vermilion, keeps his silver pocket watch immersed in boiling butterscotch, and if by chance he catches cold, he somersaults if not too old. Musicians there, a sturdy lot, use woolen wrappers when it's hot, and the scholar propagates, pasting bills on balding baits. When the king sits on the throne, he starts hee-hawing in baritone, and on his lap the prime minister just sits and beats a canister. The throne, they decorate with bottles of bicarbonate. The king's old aunt, an autocrat, hits pumpkins with her cricket bat, while uncle loves to dance mazurkas, wearing garlands strung with hookahs. All of which, through mighty queer, is natural in Bombardia. Now, as you already know, this is all nonsense verse. Sukumar Ray had been writing these children poems, but many says that there are some hidden meanings in it, some satire, some wits, and some humors. So now let's try and understand what are the hidden meanings. Now let us take the title of the poem, for example, The King of Bombardia. Now if we examine the word Bombardia, so according to physics, Bombardia is a gen of fungus. Sorry, not according to physics, science. According to science, Bombardia is a gen of fungus. As you can already tell, this land is fungus, the empire of fungus or the kingdom of fungus. So unusual practices takes place in the kingdom of Bombardia. Now the king, for example, advises for chocolates to be framed with gilt. Maybe it shows the character of the king. The king is majestic from outside and inside is something else. Chocolate is also a kind of fungus after all. While the queen who sleeps with a pillow struck to her bed, maybe she is bedridden, ill, or drugged. She commands her brother to master the art of sticking nails in custard pies. Now what is the meaning of nailing custard pies? Now if you notice the word nails in during according to Bible, nail protects from evil. Maybe the brother is trying to protect the innocent. Now on the moonlit night, the Bombardian, his eyes all painted vermilion. Why on moonlit night, and why painted vermilion? Now moonlight represents inner self, the people of Bombardia. Maybe vermilion is the color of life, red. Maybe people have fear of death. People hide their precious things for fear of robbery or of snatching, like silver pocket watch immersed in boiling butterscotch. Now, what is this butterscotch? I don't know what is this boiling butterscotch, but it may symbolize some harshness, maybe thievery, robbery. Now, and by chance, he catches cold, he somersaults, if not too old. Maybe cold symbolizes suffering. Somersault means turn head over heels. If the person is not too old for the permission, he suffers head over heels. Musicians there, a sturdy lot, use woolen wrappers when it's hot. Why is that? The musicians of Bombardia are very strong, who use their power to hide their act. Scholars are treated as bonded laborers from parent to child. When the king sits on the throne and sings the happy songs of his kingdom, he is being manipulated by his prime minister who takes all the treasures for himself by taking the place of king. How am I saying this? You read for yourself. When the king sits on the throne, he starts hee-hawing in baritone, and on his lap the prime minister just sits and beats a canister. Maybe the prime minister is taking advantage of his powers. The throne, they decorate with bottles of bicarbonate. They decorate the throne with a salt of carbonic acid containing the anion HC03, HCO3, sorry. Now, too much acid is not good for anyone. Now, furthermore, the king's old aunt, an autocrat, hits pumpkins with her cricket bat, while uncle loves to dance mazurkas, wearing garlands strung with hookahs. King's old aunt, who happens to be an autocrat, a ruler with total power over a country, that is an autocrat. Now, pumpkins are a symbol of the harvest. Maybe she destroys the harvest of peasants as if it is a game for her. Yeah, Mazuka. Mazuka is a Polish word. It means a Masovian woman or girl, characterized by stamping feet and clicking heels. Now, Mazuka is also a dance, which is stamping feet and clicking heels. While his uncle tortures some poor girls, innocent girls, by treating them under their feet, a circular or spiral arrangement of intertwined material around his shoulders, like here it is said wearing garlands. So maybe he is addicted with hookah because he is wearing garlands strung with hookah. That means both his aunt and uncle are not good people, all of which through mighty queer is natural in Bombardier. Now the last two lines are saying that it is all natural in Bombardier, like it is nothing for the people there. It's alright, yeah, yeah. But why? Now, as I said before, there are hidden satires. Sukumar Ray had written this about the British colonial rule. Now let's analyze it a bit further. So the characteristics of the king are very strange. Maybe because Ray wanted to sketch the malpractices of the king, maybe the king is innocent and the other men are not innocent, like the prime minister who is sitting on his lap. Maybe he is the villain, not the king, but we can't be sure. But we also have to predict that the king is the bad guy here, who is also this countryman that is metaphorically as like as the British colonizers. Maybe the king is represented at the British colonizers. Also, now this is only an assumption, but we can't know for sure. Now, moving on the next poetry, this is the missing whiskers. Now, what is the missing whiskers? They always knew the boss Babu to be a gentle fellow. What happens if he in a jiffy turns all blue and yellow? Now, they always knew the boss Babu to be a gentle fellow. Who are they in here? They are the workers. Now, first of all, let's start with the title, The Missing Whiskers. Now, whiskers are another word for mustache, but for animals, not for humans. Animals have whiskers while humans have mustache. Whiskers, for example, like cats and dogs and many other animals as well, they have whiskers. But why a whisker for Boss Babu, who is actually a human here? Now, let's see. They always knew the Boss Babu to be a gentle fellow. What happens if he, in a jiffy, turns all blue and yellow? Now, they means the workers knew that their boss was a kind person. But what happens if suddenly the kind person becomes stressed? Now, jiffy means suddenly. and turns all blue and yellow. Now, blue means depression and yellow means cowardness. What does it mean when it says depressed and coward? Why does he change at all? He was seated in his chair, relaxed and free from care, indulging in his post meridian nap, when without a warning, in the middle of his yawning, something right inside him seemed to snap. Now he was settled in his position. He was seated in his chair, which means he was settled in his position at liberty without any anxiety or caution. It means he was living a free life. Now, metaphorically, the word afternoon refers to a relatively late period in the expanse of time or in one's life. So we can assume that the boss was a middle aged man when, without any prior notice, in the middle of any opening, something often completely confidential of him unexpectedly broke. With muffled cries, he rolled his eyes and threw his arms about. "Alas, I am sick! Come save me quick!" was what he sputtered out. Now, with silent sorrow, he moved his mind. He operated his weaponry around, with grieving that he is disappointed, appeared with the exception of him ready and was what he said softly, not softly. They heard him and they all began to cluster round the stricken man and pondered to the safest plan to bring him to his senses. Call the police. No, the vet. His partner said. He seems upset, but careful. He might bite yet, said his amanuensis. Now the workers, they got what he meant and started to assemble around a troubled man and considered the most secure scheme to lead him to the right consciousness. Maybe the employees got wind of the change in Boss Babu and started to plan a secured way to bring their boss to his normal state. Now some suggested to call the police, maybe to arrest him, while some said to call the vet. Some of them suggest to call the police on him, while some said to be careful around him. His business partner said that he appears to be unsettled, and his secretary says to stay alert, for he might harm even now. Take the jobs, maybe? But Boss Babu, his face all red and swollen, now declared, "My moustache has been stolen." The Boss Babu was angered and declared that his moustache, which symbolizes virility for a man, has been stolen. He is not a true man anymore. Anyone, anyone who doesn't have a virility won't be recognized as a man. So that means he is not a true man anymore, but has been corrupted. "Stolen whiskers!" they all cried. The Babu must be pacified, and so they held a mirror to his face. "There, sir," they said, "you see your whiskers where they used to be. Who would dare to put you in disgrace?" The workers were shocked with this and wanted to calm their boss. Now the Babu must be pacified is important to the workers, but why? Surely they know. Now pacify is a word which means to calm down someone. They are trying to calm their boss by holding a mirror in front of his face and saying that your whiskers are where they used to be. But there is something you should notice, that it is not mustache but whiskers now. Why a whisker? And when it is said that they held a mirror to his face, what does that mean? They are trying to show him his real self, because mirror represents inner self, true self. And just like I said, there are no mustache but whiskers on his face, because a mirror never lies, and they can see that there are no mustache but whiskers. Now they are all trying to tell him that he is normal, he is human, but the boss Babu himself knows what he is now. Babu now began to scream, "You dunderheads! I would not dream of ever wearing whiskers so outrageous. They make me look like a shabby butcher. Know this in the near future. I ought to. No, I must reduce your wages. This he did, and then at random he composed a memorandum, herewith quoted, minus appendages. Now the boss Babu, who have already known the truth, has been changed completely, and with the bitter truth he had to stop his employees from speaking the truth. Thus, to punish them, to subside them, he just reduced their wages to make them shut up their mouth, and also made a memorandum of it so they can also remember what happens when someone tries to speak against the powerful. Now the employees, they don't have any power right now because they are under their boss, and the boss Babu, he is very powerful. So he can do whatever he wants to his employees, and no one would dare to even ask him a question. Thus, he also wanted to reduce the remaining voices, so he just made a punishment of minus appendages. If you think your employees deserve your love, correction please, they don't. They're fools, no common sense. They're full of gross incompetence. The ones in my establishment deserve the highest punishment. They showed their cheek in not believing, whiskers led themselves to thieving. Their moustaches, I predict, will soon be mercilessly picked, and when that happens they will know what man is to mustachio. Man is slave, mustachio is master, losing which man meets disaster. Now in this stanza, the boss Babu is saying how rich people think about their employees, how what rich people do to their employees. So you think that middle class people are fools with no common sense for trying to speak the truth, for trying to speak for their rights. You think that the high class people, they can just put them under their feet and they will do nothing about it. They just encourage one another to do the same. But when someone rejects them, they just start to destroy them, also accuse them. Like the boss Babu who says that they deserve the highest punishment. Why does they deserve the highest punishment when the boss Babu is in fault? Now this was the reality of that time, and even today this is happening. Now when it says that man is slave, mustachio is master, losing which man meets disaster. Now mustache, note this, that mustache means virility of a man, purity of a man, the manliness of a man. A true man won't lie. A true man won't just destroy the others, the poor, the innocent, or the lower. He would protect. But this man, he is just doing the opposite. So he is no man. He doesn't deserve a mustache. He deserves a whisker. Now, there are also a lot of things in common here. I would like to mark them. But first, the missing whiskers, who is a great representative of the British culture and rules, he calls the Indians as monkeys. Now, according to one text, Sukumar is calling Indians as monkeys. Monkeys also have whiskers because the Indians' rites and rules and rituals are also very strange to Boss Babu. But the poet has given a vivid description about Boss Babu and some of the angelized Hindustani that the only identity of them is their whiskers. Boss Babu has also a great temper, but Sukumar has indicated that this temper has vanished after missing his whiskers. Now, if you have noticed one thing in this poem, there are a lot of whiskers. Like the title is The Missing Whiskers, which is compared by Sukumar as monkey. So humans, Indians actually are compared to as monkeys. And there is another line that his partner, not his partner, sorry, someone says that call the police, then another said no, the vet. Why the vet? A vet is a doctor who treats the animal, not a human. So Sukumar is generally comparing Indians to animals who are just being criticized by the British colonizers, and the boss bubble here is the British colonizer. Now, moving on to the next one, stew much. Now, this one is a complicated. Let's see. A duck once made a porcupine. They formed a corporation which called itself a porcuduck, a beastly configuration. A stork to a turtle said, "Let's put my head upon your torso. We who are so pretty now as Stortle would be more so." The lizard with the parrot's head thought taking talking to the chili after years of eating worms is absolutely silly. A prancing goat, one wonders why, was driven by a need to bequeath his upper portion to a crawling centipede. The giraffe with the grasshopper's limbs reflected, "Why should I go for walks in grassy fields now that I can fly?" The nice contented crow will doubtless get a frightful shock on finding that his lower limbs belong to a fighting cock. It's obvious the whale elephant is not a happy notion. The head goes for the jungle while the tail turns to the ocean. The lion lacks of horns distressed him greatly so. He teamed up with a deer. Now watch his antlers grow. This one is really, really, really complicated to me. I shall say so. Sukumar Ray has used a lot of animals in this poem. Now, in this poem, he has created nonsense portmanteau words by joining the names of two animals and forming one word out of them. Now, if we look at the form of the poem, we see that it is written in rhyming couplets. Of course, most of them is rhyming couplets. But because this is for children to read at surface like nonsense, amusing words showing the tenth rasa, the khayal rosh, the whimsy. It is whimsical, it is fantastical, and the incongruous images. So now, however, at a deeper level, Ray's concern with hybridity can be seen in this poem as well. Now, when you combine two animals, they are actually being hybrid, like the duck and porcupine, for instance. They are called porcu-duck now, but it is a hybrid. The duck has the face, but porcupine's torso. Now, why a hybrid? Now, it is also one thing to observe in the drawings. The drawings are very integral to the poem. They are not just a secondary accompaniment for the benefit of young readers, they are important because they tell us in exactly what way the two creatures are combined to form a hybrid. This is something that the poem itself does not tell us. They are not combined equally. Now, for example, um, let's take giraffe. Yeah, let's take the giraffe who was given a grasshopper's wing. It says that the giraffe with the grasshopper's limb reflected, "Why should I go for walks in grassy fields now that I can fly?" But how come? A giraffe has a very long neck, while a grasshopper is an insect, a very small one. If you attach the neck of a giraffe to a grasshopper, it cannot fly. It will weight it too much. It will weight way too much for it to fly. Thus, it's just hopeless for them. Similarly, if we look and realize that a big cow has not been joined with a small cock, the size of the cock has been increased and the size of the cow has been decreased in order to create a new creature who is capable of talking, walking, running, maybe flying. Cocks maybe can fly from some height, but how come a cow can fit a cock? It doesn't seem possible at all. Now, if we also see the goat and the centipede, Now the centipede's size has been greatly increased according to the quote, but it is not true. It is not well. It doesn't fit well. And when we see the small prickly spikes of the porcupine with the size to fit the duck, there is no equality in them. Now, similarly, the British and Indians are not combined equally, even in hybrid human beings. This is a very important thing which we get to know from the pictures, and we can see how they serve to enhance the meaning of the poem. The fact that the mixed creature may have more of one human than the other is meant to show that some of the hybrid people in society may be more Indian and less British, others may be more British and less Indian. But there is still no similarity. Similarly, some of the British also became Indianized. It was not just a one way culture transfer. Even today, we see so many words from Indian languages like Hindi, which have now become a part of English. We see a British writer like Ruskin Bond who became so Indianized that he never wanted to leave India. Now, Ray, Sukumar Ray is laughing at the British because the British never expected this to happen. The British definitely wanted to colonize India, but they never expected that they would also become Indianized in the process. And telling the British that they also became hybrid creatures is something which hurt and wounded the British pride a lot. Thus, the poem is a satire which is meant to laugh at and mock both the hybrid British as well as the Indians. We need to look at the last two couplets a little more in detail. The Welfant has its head towards the forest and its tail towards the ocean. The tropical forest represents India and the ocean represents the British Island. So these are what the hybrid creatures are like, a part of them longing for India and a part of them for Britain. However, even here the two are not combined in equal ways. For example, the Welfant has the head of an elephant, so the elephant head can say what it desires. The forest, the whale tail cannot speak, and thus the elephant is dominating here. And the last couplet we find a lion teaming up with a deer's antlers. Now this should strike us very funny because a lion and a deer are predator and prey. They can never team up with each other. They also show how the British and Indians, predator and prey, are teaming up. The rest of the couplets are relatively simple and perhaps do not need much explanation, but we can see that the two animals combined are not equal in every case. The size is either reduced or increased in order to make it proportionate to the new creature. Also, the one who has the head always has the power of expression, so the power is not divided equally between them. And this refers to the hybrid Indians and the Englishmen, who were both influenced by each other, as explained above. Now, Sukumar Ray has used these same creatures, Stottle, Whelpfant, Giraffe and Grasshopper, Cock and Cow, etc., in many poems. Another famous poem using these same mixed up creatures is Khichdi, translated as Hodgepodge. It is easy to understand why this poem in the syllabus is entitled Stew Much. A stew is a dish to be eaten, which is made up of multiple ingredients. Similarly, the poem is a complete mixture of things. Same is the case with Khichdi. As we have seen, many of Sukumar's poems can be read as nonsense verse, but actually they have deeper meanings behind them, making a comment on the colonial condition. However, many of his poems are also simple nonsense poems simply to be enjoyed without any hidden interpretations behind them, but most of them contains a lot of hidden emotions, hidden things, many satires, many wits, and many humors inside of it. As I said, Stew Much was a very complicated poem. Of course, I am right about it because it is a very complicated poem. Now, there is one thing I forgot to mention about the parrot and the lizard, right? Yeah, lizard. Now, I cannot say what is the comparison, but yeah, one thing is for sure that Sukumar was a student of chemistry, so he had some combinations for each animals. I can't say for sure what is the purpose, but as I mentioned before, it is to describe the hybridity of British and Indians. Yeah, moving on to the next poem, it is the Odor in the Coat. Now, Odor in the Coat is not a very complicated one, it is actually a very simple thing. Odor in the Coat just explains us about selling honor. Sukumar has presented the idea about selling honor in this poem. In this poem, the old one is the best, who has also a great power to do any kind of work. He never differentiates any work, rather, he takes the work in any situation. Let's read the poem at first. The king sat down on the throne and turned to the minister. "What's the smell?" he asked. "That smells so sinister." The minister said, "It's from my cloak, your highness, a new perfume I've brought today. It's the finest." "That," said the king, "the court physician should settle." The physician came and said, "I'd prove my mettle if the cold hadn't made my nostrils quite impassable." The king turned to the aging priest in the chasuble. "Come here, priest," he said, "and please identify the irksome smell that the air of the court does vilify." The cleric said, "I have just now taken a pinch of snuff, hence my nostrils aren't quite clear enough." The king dismissed his priest and sent for the sentinel. The sentry marched in promptly. The king said, "Can't you tell what this odor is that our work does hamper?" "Your highness," answered the sentry, "the smell of camphor in my beetle still pervades my senses. I can't guess what the obnoxious essence is." The king said, "Off with you," and sent for the strong man. Bhim Singh the wrestler came and proved quite the wrong man. "Your highness," the wrestler said, his muscles bulging, "I am not in the best of health. I hate divulging." The king looked green, then suddenly cried, "By thunder! Why not ask my distant cousin named Chunder?" "Chunder dear," the king implored, "don't fail me." With a raucous laugh old Chunder said, "Impale me, or hang me by my neck, just any old season. But forcing a man to smell defies all reason." At the back of the court sat Nazir, a non-agrarian, thinking, "I'm old, I haven't much longer to carry on. For a sack of gold I'd smell it. I am perfectly willing." So Nazir hobbled to the king and said his wish. The king said, "Do it, Nazir, I'll give you bakshish." Nazir went up to the minister and down he bent to plant his nostrils right on the source of the scent. Wondrous feat, the courtiers turned applauders. Long live Nazir, defier of odious odors. Now, in this poem, as I said before, it tells us about selling one's honor. So, the old Nazir, he is willing to do anything just for a sack of gold by smelling it. This signifies about col- how the British colonizers used to buy some of the Indians, the greedy ones who would do anything for just a sack of gold, just for some money. The old one is the best, who has also a great power to do any kind of work. He never differentiates any work actually. The old Nazir doesn't differentiate any work, he just takes it in any situation just for the money. Everyone in the court nullified the work, about to shook the odor from the cloth of the minister, but only the old Nazir agreed to shoot that. So here the poet only expresses the idea about selling one's honor. There is nothing more and nothing less about it. Now, furthermore, the sons of Ram Guru. Now, what is the sons of Ram Guru? Now, before that, just forgot to discuss about the title in this poem, Odor in the Court. Now, why odor in the court? As the poem is all about odor. What is this odor? We can't be sure about it. It may be some dirty work. Dirty work like killing your brother, killing your friends, killing your family, betraying your family. It is dirty work. Odor. Odor means bad smell. Now, where is bad smell? Of course, when there is something bad, rotten, rotten meat, dead people. Now, this Nazir like people, they just agree to any work, any dirty work. Maybe it is about the dirty work in the court, inside of a court. In the early ages, there were many men who would betray their country, their king, their nation, their land, just for some money, and the old Nazir proves it best. So, yeah, that was all about the title. It is very important to know about the title as well. Now, the sons of Ram Guru, we are going to discuss now. The sons of Ram Guru. Now, who it is Ram Guru? Ram Guru is some kind of man. As you can see in this picture, he is shown as a devil-like creature. Not human at all, but an animal. Now, what does animals do? Wild, rageous, aggressive. They will just scratch you, they will beat you, they will kill you. Now, this Ram Guru is just like that, and the sons of Ram Guru doesn't simply says that they are Ram Guru's son. They are Ram Guru's followers. To the sons of Ram Guru, laughter is taboo. A funny tale will make them wail. We are not amused, boo-hoo. They live in constant fear of chuckles far and near, and start and bound at every sound that brings a breath of cheer. Their peace of mind forfeiting, they sit and keep repeating, we believe in only grieving, happiness is fleeting. They shun the summer breeze that whispers through the trees. For fear the stir of leaf and burr their funny bones should tease. They keep a wary eye on the autumn sky for signs of mirth above the earth informing cumuli. They keep a wary eye on the autumn sky for signs of mirth above the earth informing cumuli. The darkness of the night brings them no respite as fireflies ex- extemporize their dances of delight. Those of you who are jolly and feel to woo is folly must not refuse the Ram Gurus their right to melancholy. The Ram Gurusian lair, bereft of sun and air, is doomed to be a monastery of permanent despair. Now, in this poem, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there are 8 stanzas. Now, in the stanza 1, the first stanza, it shows us that laughter is taboo and moreover forbidden thing for the Ramgarus. Even listening to a funny story makes them wail and cry boo-hoo. This itself is ironical that even a funny story makes them cry. Even though they are surrounded by funny and amusing things, they still refuse to be happy. What is commonplace for others is not normal for these people. Now, Ray is also using exaggeration to caricature them. You see that Ramgaru, Tabu, and Boo. Now, line 3 does not rhyme with these lines. However, we notice an internal rhyme in line 3. An internal rhyme is two rhyming words within the same line. Tail and veil. We see the same pattern repeated throughout the poem. And stanza 2 shows that they are even afraid of chuckles and are really startled and alarmed by any kind of cheerfulness. Instead of being happy, they're in fact afraid of being cheerful and are determined to be sad. Now, it just shows that these men do not even have any peace of mind. They just keep sitting and repeating the words that happiness is temporary and it is fleeting. It comes and goes, only grieving is permanent. In fact, it is real. It is a reality in life. Happiness is actually temporary. It is actually fleeting and only grieving is permanent. But not to everyone. Those who are cheerful, who are optimistic, for them, even sadness is nothing. They only see happiness in everything. Now, it says that they keep a wary eye on the autumn sky. But why? It shows that they do not even go out in the summer because of the wind in the trees. They are afraid that the wind in the trees might make them smile or laugh despite the nice and pleasant weather. They are determined to sit and be sad and gloomy. Now, Ray is constantly putting before his readers various things that would make a normal person happy, like autumn sky and mirth above the earth, a summer breeze whispers through the trees, leaf and burr. There are a lot of things which would amuse them, but no, they just keep a wary eye. In the autumn season, they keep a strict watch on the sky in case the pattern of the clouds make them smile. Again, in pleasant and happy weather, they are determined to be sad. Cumuli are a certain type of clouds that look like white or gray foam and can take different shapes depending on the air currents. In each stanza, Ray is giving us the possibilities that would make any normal person happy. But for the Ramgurus, these possibilities are avoided or subverted to serve their purpose of being melancholy. Those of you who are jolly and feel to woo its folly must not refuse the Ram Gurus their right to melancholy. The Ram Gurusian lair, bereft of sun and air, is doomed to be a monastery of permanent despair. Yeah, it says that those people who like to be jolly, laugh, and smile, and who think that it is stupid to be sad, to be pessimist, must not refuse the Ram Gurus for their pessimistic act, for being sad. Whether others like to be sad or not, they must let the Ram Gurus be sad as they want to be sad. Now, in an oblique manner, Ray has brought in the question of rights. The right to melancholy may be a ridiculous demand, but it is pointing to the fact that in colonial times, Indians were denied their rights by the colonizers. Now, try and point out the rhymes and internal rhymes in this stanza. Now, word lyre or the abode of the Ramgurus as a monastery where there is no sun or air, but only permanent despair. Monasteries are religious places where monks, sadhus, etc. stay. Now, Ray sees these places as having no joy or pleasure, as religious men are always serious, engaged in worship, meditation, and so on. You may have heard that monks in monasteries do not even stay with their families. They never marry all their lives and have no children. But unlike the monks in a monastery who live a life of abstinence and meditation in order to connect spiritually with the Supreme Being, the Ramguru's only purpose in life is to aim for permanent despair. The idea of a spiritual intent is thus undetermined. In this stanza, We can just see, however, there is no internal rhyme. There is actually a lot of internal rhyme. There is an internal meaning, like the lair bereft of sun and air is doomed to be a permanent monastery, to be a monastery of permanent despair. Now, the poem itself does not have the sign in Bengali and cannot actually show how the Ramguru is seen as a fantastical and yet an ordinary being inhabiting the Bengali countryside. But a visual depiction of the clouds and trees also show us how these are actually happy and cheerful, and only the Ramguru is gloomy. Now, the Baburam the snake chamber. Who is this Baburam and what's the snake charmer? Now, Baburam the snake charmer just reveals an interesting study on the tricks and defnets of the British East India Company. The speaker may be compared the British imperialist and the snake charmer Baburam with Mughal Empire Farrukhsiyar. The Farrukhsiyar's foreman gave the company the right to purchase some village for their business and to make that place as their business place. So here we can see that the snake charmer is the Farrukhsiyar and the British imperialists are the infernal serpent. Just like the poem as we read before, Odor in the Court, there was the Nazir who used to do the dirty work for sacks of gold, and here we can see Farrukhsiyar. We are not sure if the Farrukhsiyar is the real Baburam and the British imperialists are the real snakes. Maybe it is the opposite. Maybe it is the British colonizers who are Baburam in here, and people like Farrukhsiyar and Nazir are the snakes. Now let's focus on the poem for now. Hello there, Baburam. What have you got in there? Snakes? Aha! And do you think there is one that you could spare? You know, I'd love to have one. But let me tell you this, the ones that bite aren't right for me, nor the ones that hiss. I'd also skip the ones that butt, as well as the ones that whistle, or the ones that slink about, or show their fangs or bristle. As for eating habits, I think it would be nice to go for ones that only take a meal of milk and rice. I'm sure you know the kind of snake that want from what I've said. Do let me have one, Baburam, so I could bash its head. Now, what do you understand with this poem? I just understand nothing. It is very confusing for everyone. But yeah, it still have some hidden meanings like hello Baburam, what have you got in there? Now snakes, serpents, if you know about the Bible, Satan took the form of a serpent to deceive Eve. So serpents are a being which are not trustable. Likewise, the British colonizers, they are also not trustable. And likewise in India, there were many courtiers who were not trustables. They were the infernal snakes. They were the serpents who would betray anyone for their profit. Now, if we are going to compare Baburam with the courtiers of India, we can see that they have got a lot of serpents in their hands, maybe the British colonials in their hands, but it is not possible for Indian courtiers to have a lot of Britishers on their hands because a snake doesn't forget to bite. The British colonizers used to deceive the Indians that they are under their heels, and when they got the chance, they would just bash them. Like the last line, it says, "Do let me have one Baburam so I could bash its head." But can we bash the head of a British colonizer? Now, this someone who wants a snake that doesn't bite, one that doesn't hiss, one that doesn't butt, one that whistle doesn't whistle, or slink about, or show their fang or bristle. Now, it means that he doesn't want a dangerous snake, a dangerous British colonizer. He wants an innocent one, a good one, maybe a naive one, so that he could take on revenge or something like that. It is not possible to say that what I am saying is right. Maybe I am wrong. But this Baburam, he is the real danger here. Because the snake charmer, once a snake gets a chance, he would just bite that charmer first. Now moving on to next, the old tickler. Now this one is also a little bit tricky, but let's just go with it. Go east or west, go north or south, by land, sea or air. But before you go, make sure old Tickler isn't there. Tickler is a terror, and I'll tell you what he's after. He'll have you stuffing tickle chops until you choke with laughter. It's hard to tell where he lives, and harder to resist him. He's always round the corner looking for a victim. His method is quite simple. He'll grab you by your sleeve and tell you anecdotes which he insists you must believe. He thinks they are very funny while others find them grim. They have to keep on laughing though, so as to humor him. One wouldn't mind the stories if they were all one had to bear. He also uses tickle feathers, which is most unfair, and so he goes on cracking. Oh, but don't you think it's funny? Aunt Kitty selling pigeons, eggs and figs and cloves and honey. The eggs are long and conical, and the cloves are all convoluted. The figs have arabesques on them nicely executed. From dawn till dusk Aunt Kitty sings a string of motley airs, all mew and barks and brays and neighs. Aunt Kitty calls them prayers. Saying so, he brings his hand behind your back to pinch you, at which you have to laugh unless you want that he should lynch you. Now the old tickler. What is this old tickler? A tickle. What is a tickle? When someone tries to tickle you, you laugh for sure. Some people are insensitive to it, so they don't laugh, but those who are sensitive, they surely laugh. But only for a short while. After a little, you just get irritated by it. Now, this old tickler is something like when go east or west, go north or south, by land, sea, or air. But before you go, make sure the old tickler isn't there. Now, east, west, north, south, land, or sea, or air. The British Empire had India under his rule for ages, and generally all of India. And it just says that tickler is a terror. Now, the British government, when it came to India, they were friends, fellows, they were tickling us. And after a while, that tickling became a terror. That tickler became a terror. So the tickler is compared to a British officer, a British government, the British colonizers, the East India Company. And I'll tell you what he's after. He'll have you stuffing tickle chops until you choke with laughter. Now he'll just please you with what you desire, what you want. And then when he will see that you're pleased with him, that you're under his arms now, you're his marionette now, he will now see his true colors. It's hard to tell where he lives and harder to resist him. It's hard to tell where he lives because when the Britishers first came to India, they didn't have much idea of them. They just knows that, yeah, they were foreigners, but from where did they come? It's very hard to resist him. Of course, it is very hard to resist them. He's always round the corner looking for a victim. The British always looked for a victim. They always just monopolized each and every one. His method is quite simple. He'll grab you by your sleeve and tell you anecdotes which he insists you must believe. He'll tell you stories. He will tell you about how things will benefit you, how it will profit you, etc., etc. And you will think, oh wow, it is great. I shall do this. Now now that you just listen to him continuously, you start to believe him that yeah, maybe he is right. Now, he thinks they are very funny while others find them grim. Even if you don't find it good, you are thinking of your benefit now, so you find it funny now. They have to keep on laughing though, so as to humor him. The Indians just laughed at their jokes to please them, not themselves, but the Britishers. One wouldn't mind the stories if they were all one had to bear. Now, the same trick, he also uses tickle feathers, which is most unfair, showing their true colors, tickling them, just making them pleased, and then after a while it is going to be irritating. And so he goes on bragging, oh, but don't you think it's funny? Aunt Kitty selling pigeon eggs and figs and gloves and honey. Now, Aunt Kitty, you may think that Aunt Kitty is some aunt, but according to the Cambridge Dictionary, Kitty means money. An amount of money that is made up of small amounts given by different people, used by them for an agreed purpose. This is the meaning of kitty. So the British colonizers must have used this way to profit the Indians, like you give me some money and I'll return you a lot of money. Now this just arose greed inside of Indians, kings especially, and the courtiers. Don't forget them. Now selling pigeon eggs and figs and cloves and honey. What does that mean? Pigeon signifies freedom, freedom for money, along with cloves and honey and figs. They all symbolize something like prosperity, and fruit that symbolize knowledge and the loss of innocence that comes with wisdom. Now, clove represents flower buds, the future of India. They are selling the future of India. Labors. Honey represents happiness, the happiness. They are selling their rights. They are selling their everything, just for some kind of money. Now, the figs have arabesque on them, nicely executed from dawn till dusk. Now, let's notice this line. From dawn till dusk, Aunt Kitty sings a string of motley airs. All mew and barks and brays and neighs, Aunt Kitty calls them prayers. Mew, barks, brays, neighs, they are maybe they can be compared to voices. Voices about rights. Give us our rights, give us our things, leave us alone. But now they have become prayers. Please release us, give us freedom. But yeah, they are not going to give you anything right now. Not now, not never, never. The Britishers have already established their rights, so now the Indians don't have any rights against them. Saying so, he brings his hand behind your back to pinch you. Now he's warning you that you must follow what he says. Otherwise, if you don't laugh, means if you don't follow, they will lynch you. He will just kill you. That's all. They are just going to be labors for them, and you won't be able to do anything. Now, the groomy tidings. It is a very simple one. Now, the groomy tidings, um, it doesn't have a lot of meaning in it, but yeah, the as we go through the poem Groomy Tidings, we shall be able to notice that how Sukumar ironically represented the character and background with a juxtaposition of the groom named Gangaram. It is ridiculed, but everything is juxtaposed very technically. Also, we shall find a strange character. It is a very strange character, the Gangaram. Now, groomy tidings. Groomy tidings. What is a groomy tidings? A groom's tiding? Tidying up a groom? No, just describing the features of a groom. Tidying up the groom's fairness, unfairness, features, characteristics, etc. So now let's begin. Dear sir, my dear sir, do let me shake your hand. Your daughter is soon to be wed, I understand. Great news, congrats. Now, luckily, I know this Gangaram, the groom to be. Splendid chap, you have won a fair prize. Though not so fair, haha, complexion wise. His face reminds me of, now, let me see. Ah, yes, an owl. The same rounded deity. Education, sir? Now there's a lad with all the strength of will that's to be had. He sat for his final tests for school. No luck, he flopped. 19 times he tried, and then he stopped. Financial state, you ask? His property? His sunk in debts as far as I can see. His brothers are a sorry bunch, I fear. One's a loony, one's a racketeer. A third they put the clinkers on because by forging money he was breaking laws. The youngest one, I gather, plays the drum in restaurants and earns a paltry sum. Gangaram himself despairs to fight his ailments of the spleen and hepatitis, but mark you, sir, his noble ancestry. Gangaram branches from a princely tree, Sham Lahiri, and it has been proved. Is Gangaram's own cousin thrice removed? Looking for a future son-in-law, I dare say you could ask for more. Now, in this poem, the narrator is just telling the bride's father Gangaram's reality, Gangaram's nature, Gangaram's true actuality, true reality, the characteristics of his, how he failed his matrix 19 times. He is sunk in depths. He doesn't have a complexion. He looks like an owl. His brothers, they are not a good one. He himself is not a good one. His cousin is not a good one. As a son-in-law, he is not a good one. So this is what we see in the groomy tidings, how the narrator is tidying up the faults of Gangaram, the groom. Next is Uncle's invention. Now, this one is a very good one. I shall say you why. Uncle's invention. What does it say? So, if we go through the poem Uncle's Invention, we shall get the direct, unprecedented references about the colonizer's trick. How so? Let's read the poem at first. Chandi Das' uncle has invented a device which is causing everyone to praise it to the skies. When uncle was a year old or maybe even younger, he came out with a lusty yell that sounded just like Gunga. At such an age, most other tots just manage glug and mum. So Gunga, like a thunderbolt, struck everybody dumb, and all who heard said, "Here's a boy, provided the survives." Will one day surely bring about a change in human lives. It seems the day is here at last and victory is won, with what will make a 5 miles walk seem like only one. I've seen the contrivance myself and say with confidence, never had inventions had such greater significance. Let me tell you how it strikes the eyes of a beholder. First of all, one notes that you must strap it to your shoulder. An arm extends, and from its end, one notes there hangs a hook, to which you bait some food, stuff which you either buy or cook. Naturally, the choice depends upon your presi- predilections. It's wiser to restrict yourself to hookable confections. The sight of morsel dangling close provokes the urge to eat, which transcribed to your motive force soon propels the feed. Before you know you're on the go, your mind intent on feeding. But since the food is traveling too, you never stop your speeding. The outcome I need hardly add will change your whole existence, because we'll work for nourishment and never mind the distance. No wonder there's a move of food to honor Uncle Soon for bestowing on humanity an everlasting boon. Now, what is this? It just gives a direct, unpredicted references about the colonizer's trick. The uncle has been represented as a colonizer, and his mechanical invention, it is a strap for the common people of India. Now, uncle has invented a machine that can emphasize the walking time for a trip, and the ingredient is some food. Now here, Sukumar Ray has explored that in the true sense, the food is also the money, and the poor Indian can do any kind of work for the money, and the colonizers always want to tempt the Indian people with the money. So yeah, that is only a simple poem which also represents that honor can be sold. Now, here we don't say honor because there is no sense. It doesn't say anything about honor, it's saying about food. How we work hard to fulfill our needs, how we work hard to fill our stomach. Food is a need for everyone in particular. And for food, we can do anything. Similarly, when it says that you can do a 5 mile trip like one, only with a morsel of food, it literally means that Indians have to do a lot of work, hard labor to fulfill their needs, their food. It is just the harsh reality of the India at that period, how the British colonizers used to torture them. Now, moving on, this is the 10th poem, The Old Woodman, which I couldn't be able to decipher it. It was actually impossible for me to decipher it, but yeah, let us see. The Old Woodman. The Old Woodman. Woodman, what is a woodman? Someone who cuts wood. And wood, it represents growth, prosperity, greenery, nature, oxygen, life. So the old man doesn't seem to mind the sun's that getting hotter. He hums a tune and mumbles words. He sits and licks a wooden stick. Why does he lick a wooden stick? That's just been boiled in water and shakes his balding head. It seems as if he's twice as wise as anybody dead. The holes you find in wood, he says, have some reason to be there. They're caused, and no one knows this yet, by cobwebs in the air. But who cares for all this knowledge? Screams the old man, fuming. A bunch of dolls, that's what they are, pretending and presuming. I've told them time and time again they haven't understood what moonless nights are apt to do. The holes that go with wood. Graphs and charts and formulas he scribbles on the walls, subdividing different types of wood and analyzing all. Tasty wood and tangy wood, and wood that's hard to savor, and all that lies concealed in holes, and all the hidden flavor. He claps the wooden sticks together, saying, "These are sticks which hold no secret from me now that I know all their tricks. All the wooden villainy and all the wooden wiles, wooden ills and wooden woes, and beaming wooden smiles. Some wood is wise and some is not, but holes are always there, and only I can see they're caused by cobwebs in the air." Now, what does this old man symbolize? Wise? Twice as wise as anybody dead. Now, if someone is dead, they can't be wise. They are nothing if they are dead. It may symbolize that the woodman is not wise because it says that he's twice as wise as anybody dead. Now, what does this hole means in the wood? Lots of wood. There are a lot of woods in there, and the holes are caused by the cobwebs in the air. Influences? Some kind of bad influence? Maybe the old man is telling someone. Now, woods. There are a bunch of woods. Lots of woods. Indians, maybe? Woods may be referred to the Indians, and the woodman, he is licking woods boiled in water. The tortured Indians, maybe he's trying to convince them to speak for their right, act for their right. They are saying them that you are being held by the cobwebs in the air. Maybe the cobwebs in the air are the British colonizers. Maybe he's trying to warn us. We don't know what he's saying. I'm not sure about this poetry because I haven't been through it a lot. But yeah, I can say that this woodman is trying to warn the trees, which are just held by the cobwebs in the air. Now, it has come to an end. Sukumar Ray has written a lot of poetry in Abol Tabol, but Satyajit Ray was able to translate 10 of them. And these were the 10 of them. Maybe there are other more, but I don't know about it, and I was sure. I am truly sure that these 10 poetries are the one that should come in exams also. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and please do like and subscribe to our channel for latest updates and a lot of more videos. Like I have been uploading a bit of tour videos recently, and our gamer is also trying to do some videos about the newly launched, not newly launched, I mean his new game, Red Dead Redemption 2. It is not a new game, but yeah, he is playing it recently, and soon he'll be posting a lot of videos with his lousy commentary. So yeah, do like and subscribe to our channel again. I'm telling you this, yeah. And do ask me questions if you have any. I'd be very glad to answer you. And that's all for today. Time out.